For Shavuot, receiving of the Torah. You'll see how it's connected. A simple question: what is Judaism? More specifically, it is a nation, or it's to be a religion, holy individuals. What is the goal? What is the purpose? What is the uniqueness of the Jewish people? But we can start with what we read on the Torah on Shavuot, in chapter 19 in Shmot, of the giving of the Torah before the Ten Commandments. It says in the third month, after they left Egypt, B'yom hazeh they came to the desert of Sinai, which was on Rosh Chodesh Sivan, yesterday. Yesterday we got, a few thousand years ago, 3,300 something, and something, we entered the Sinai desert. We got to Sinai. Today, it's called Yom HaMiyuchas, the special day. The first day, they rested up. There's a deep thing of why God didn't say anything yet on the first day. Because the Torah was meant to be kept and lived by a healthy nation, not weak and broken. But the first day, they're tired, the Gemara says, from the trip. So God wants to give the Torah. The essence of the Torah is not, again, for broken people or for weak, but to be revealed through a healthy, strong nation. So he waited the first day. The second day, today, the second day of Sivan, God revealed to them the goal. Before the Ten Commandments, you'll be unto me a Mamlechet Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. That was today. And it comes back every year on this day, this recognition of our collective national goal, for the universal goal, for the bettering of mankind, of all of existence. But then it says they camped in Refidim, and they came to the Sinai, and they camped in the desert, and then it says the famous Vayichan Sham Yisrael Neged Har, and there Israel encamped before the mountain of Sinai. But there, the Rashi points out, what the rabbis discuss, that up till now it was in the plural tense. They came, they went, they traveled, they did this, and all of it says Vayichan. Israel encamped, like the singular. So Rashi points out that here they encamped like one man with one heart. They became unified. But all the other encampments were with complaints and strife and differing and machloket and different. They were divided, each one complaining about something else. But here they became unified. That's why it's in the single tense, the rabbis say. If you see the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, you don't have the sheets yet. Maybe pass out. I'll give you this second sheet where it is. This sheet, source number 14. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, on this verse. We won't read the whole thing, what's underlined. Vayichan Sham Yisrael, and Israel camped there. Lashon Yachid, in a single tense. Sheneasu kulam yachar ki'ish echad. Like Rashi brings down from that they all became like one person. Vehein ata hem ru'yim lekabbalat Torah. And now they are worthy of receiving the Torah. In other words, this unity, this oneness, is a prerequisite for receiving the Torah. When they became unified, now they can receive it. Now they're receptacle. Now they can receive it. Up till now, they couldn't receive it. We have to understand why. Why couldn't every Jew receive it? Everyone, okay, so they're all separate, millions of Jews running on Shimon, Yitzchak. They all receive the Torah and keep the Torah. If it's a religion, each one gets it and fulfills it. There's commandment, there's rituals, there's customs. All the adherents of the religion keep the customs. But here, no. It required that first the Jews are unified. And we'll see the significance of that. We have another sheet here, the first source on this sheet. It says, Kol Torah she'eni ma malacha, sofa b'tila. In Pirkei Avot, every Torah that doesn't have, or doesn't come, is not accompanied with work, so to speak, you have to understand what that means, is ultimately doesn't last. Sofa b'tila ultimately is annulled, doesn't continue. On that, Rabbi Yitzchak Mibroditchev said in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, what is the work that goes with Torah? What is this work? You have to get a job, you have to work with Torah. Again, there's different explanations, but here the Hasidic commentary, in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, what is the work of Torah that goes with Torah, that is part of Torah? that without which you can't have Torah properly, they won't last. V'ahavta recha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah, as Rabbi Kiva said. This is the big rule in Torah. Love your neighbor as thyself. Lo ahavat stam, not simple love, platonic love, but rather melacha v'tamtzut b'avat Yisrael, a work and an effort in loving the Jewish people. It has to be studied. It's not just some emotional feeling, because then it's very easy to love the ones who agree with you, who are in your camp and your friends, have something in common. But how to love all the Jews, that's more difficult. That takes more learning and study. Also Rav Kook in Orot Yisrael, how the loving of Israel takes a great study and level of emunah to understand, to appreciate the divine essence, the inner essence at which you can love, because you don't love let's say there's negative actions and behavior of people. How do you love them? How can you love someone who does something that you believe is wrong? But if you have to inside to understand the inner essence of the Jewish people, that maybe we'll get to a little bit. I said it's a topic that's very all-encompassing, and it's a lot of sources to understand it properly. What is the nation of Israel? But to love the divine aspect, the inner aspect, the true essence of every Jew, his absolute connection, his inherent connection to the nation of Israel, to God. That is the part we love, and we love every Jew. But that takes study to see that, because usually we see what the senses pick up, the external, the momentary, the behavioral level. So what we saw up till now, meanwhile, is just that the Torah, the condition for receiving Torah was it had to be unified. It had to be this unit in order to receive the Torah. And we have to understand why. Why isn't it that the Torah could have been given to individuals, holy individuals, righteous people that receive the Torah? The Maral in Tiferet Yisrael, the book on Matan Torah, Maral of Prague, in chapter 17 and also in 21, he explains why the Torah wasn't, or he asks, why wasn't the Torah given to the forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, holy people? Why shouldn't they receive the Torah? Why didn't they receive it? He says, no, because again, the Torah is received by the nation of Israel, not by individuals, not by even holy individuals. The Torah, the receptacle of Torah, is a national unit. That's the body that receives this Shema. Like every individual has a soul, has a spiritual soul. But there's the Torah is the collective soul, is the divine ideal for all of creation. The body of that soul, the body that receives that life force, is the nation. This collective force that reveals God's name in the world and expresses this loftier ideal, this transcending ideal in this world, that is the nation. A nation is the minimum unit that encompasses all of life. An individual can be holy in his running away from life, in his monastery, as some religions believe that's the ideal of holiness. Or you could say he's holy in his market, he has a store, he's very righteous and honest, doesn't steal, doesn't cheat. But the minimum that encompasses all of life, to show that this ideal is not only realistic, to live a living example, but to the goal itself is all-encompassing. The divine ideal is not just to uplift a corner of life. The religious, on Sunday or Saturday, you connect to God, you connect to religion. Holiness in all of life. This force, this ideal, this neshama that is revealed in all of expressions of life, all aspects of life, all human endeavors. The minimum unit that can express that, can live that, is the nation of Israel, is a nation that has government, army, politics, agriculture, infrastructures, commerce, industry, and all that is holy. All that is driven by this unique divine soul, the Shekhinah, the divine presence in this world. It's like a person that he can reveal his personality, but God forbid doesn't have a hand or a leg. He can't express the full ideal, all of his being. And the divine ideal is so all-encompassing that no individual can express it, even the fathers. The receiving of the Torah, the Maharal explained there, is the 600,000 Jews. That's the unit. When they reach that number, that quantum energy that is released, that enables this connection of godliness to this world. That's through the vehicle of the nation of Israel. Like we mentioned often, Rav Kook used to bring down the verse in Yeshayahu 43:21. You should all know it by heart already. Am zu yetzarti li, tilati yiseperu. This nation have I created unto me, to say my name in the world. God created a vehicle that expresses his name. Not some human beings that agree, want to be, volunteer to be holy, moral, righteous. That many people can be. You don't have to be Jew to be righteous and moral and honest. But here we're talking about not a man-made thing, agreement to accept some goals or lofty principles, but rather there's this divine ideal that is not from this world, not even human contemplation of what the goal of God is beyond the momentary existence, what's revealed in this world as we see today. It's so great, this light is so enormous, and that is created and it comes through a vehicle, like a receptacle that is built to receive it. Just like the body is built to receive the neshama, the soul, individual level, it's built exactly. Everything is built to reveal a certain content. It's created with the attributes that are needed to reveal that. I don't know, what's it called? That lights, fire. The match has that ignites. What's it? Sulfur, whatever that burns. Everything is created with in the proper physical attributes that are needed to express and reveal a certain unique contribution to this world. The neshama, that Am Yisrael, this comes to bring the divine, not just a human idea, another aspect of goodness, of science, of medicine, of wisdom, but which is beyond this world, that comes into this world through this divinely created essence, Amzu Yitzarti Li, this divinely created essence that brings down my name to the world, this divine ideal, this transcending ideal beyond this world, to raise this world beyond this world. And that is the nation of Israel. Therefore, the Torah couldn't have been given, or wasn't given, until all the Jews were there, the 600,000. That number that is that, like a receptacle. So too the Rabbi said in the Midrash that if one person was missing, even a maidservant, not the individual highest level, a peasant, the maidservant, very low level, let's say, spiritual level, if one person is missing, the Torah couldn't have been given at Sinai. So that gets a hole in the cup. In other words, the cup that receives this water, the water of Torah, of light, energy to this world, is the nation of Israel. If one is missing, then there's a missing of that content, that receptacle. So again, what we're going to see now, that it's not just a condition for them. To receive the Torah, we had to be unified. And then, as if from then on, it doesn't matter what you do. Now we receive the Torah, it's in the world, and now the Jews can separate and, God forbid, fight and bickering and separate, and each one on his own. Each one keeps the laws, the adherents of Judaism. Each one agrees to fulfill the customs and laws and rituals of Judaism. No. If you see source number 5, no, we'll go to number 7. Source number 7 is the Meshech Chochmah, Rav Meir Simcha from Dvinsk. He's famous for his book, The Or Sameach, on the Rambam. He has an amazing commentary on the Torah. He was living not too long ago. In other words, 100 and less than 100 years ago, passed away. From Dvinsk. He writes when the Jews responded and they said, Kol asher tiber Hashem, all that God says we will do. I'll read it in the Hebrew quickly. Hinei mitzvot Torah. There are mitzvot of the Torah that were given to the Kohanim. There's mitzvot that are given to the Levites. There's the mitzvot of the Kohen Gadol. And there's the mitzvot of the king, of the Sanhedrin. There's mitzvot that are only to people who have land and a house. And then he says, Rak b'klal Yisrael tzichat Torah litkeim. Only in the nation of Israel can the Torah be kept. In other words, no individual can fulfill the mitzvah, the Torah. Because there's mitzvot for women, for man, no one person could do it all. By definition, it's created such that the vehicle, like the body, to receive life and express it, you need the arm, the leg. No one limb can do it all. It was built that way, that there's different functions. So to the Torah, there's different functions, the Kohanim, the Leviim, the king. And the Torah is revealed through that collective unit. Not one person, not each person receives the Torah and does his thing. Because it can't be that way. In other words, it's not just a condition for receiving it, but because of that, and connected to that, and the result of that is because it's meant for the revealing, like I said, the divine ideal through this nation, as we say before the blessing of the Torah. Asher b'charbanu mikol amim. You've chosen us, you've made us different from all the nations, as a nation. Not individuals. Non-Jews can be righteous, and non-Jews can be not so perfect. But we're talking about here the creation, this divine entity of a national entity, that the life force, a priori, before the Jews agree or don't agree, it precedes our being. The nation precedes the individuals. The nation is this collective content, this essential essence that is revealed and expressed through the individuals, through the branches of this tree. But the tree has its essence, and that's the divine content that is, again, not from this world, that is so great, it's so the blessing for all of mankind, that there's this force in this world that can connect this world to something much greater. Right? The Archimedes point, To lift up the world, you need something, a point outside the world to lift it up. You can't pick up yourself. There's a point from outside the world that raises the world to something much greater, much more beautiful of mankind, the divine ideal of godliness in all. What we say at the end of Aleinu L'Shabeach, right, in the Zechariah chapter 14. In that day, God will be one and his name will be one. God is always one, the rabbis say. Yes, but his name, the expression of that ideal, that goodness, in other words, the ideal and the real will become one. The reality will be a direct, expression, a full expression of that divine ideal. Today, it's not that way. Today, the world is so far after the sin of Adam Rishon, especially, there was a big gap between the inner content and the expressed content. What we see in the world, suffering, death, evil, wars, and the ideal of what's so beautiful, of the oneness, of expressing of God's oneness and goodness and all that permeates all of existence, that we're far away from that. There's a big a gap. And our goal, all the mitzvot, the Torah, the tefillot that we do brings, and the nation of Israel, living as a nation in the land of Israel, is what bridges that gap, connects the world to that source, plugs in the world to its source, that is beyond, that is so much greater than the momentary human level that we understand. But the Torah was built such that it can only be kept by the nation at large. He says, like the Jewish nation is like one big body. There's a person that is like the heart. There's a person that's like the head, like the eye, and and everyone has to do the mitzvot that depend on him. And together, in the last lines here, the underline, b'chaluta adam and the nation as a whole, we all receive the Torah as one, because that's the entity that receives the Torah. The individual obligation that we have, each one of us, to do the mitzvot, emanates from the fact that we are a part of that whole. In other words, not as individuals that join some club, some religion, but the fact that we're like the Amaral is an upside down tree, that the roots are above. There's the roots that exist, this transcending real essence, this source, life force, that's what's eternal. Jews come and go, but the eternal, what the Jewish people are eternal is not the individuals, but this inner life force, and that's revealed through individuals, not history. But the obligation we have in the mitzvot and the significance and the value of our mitzvot is because of the virtue of the fact that we're continuations of that divine, lofty, infinite, eternal content. Otherwise, it's just individual human acts that are very nice and moral. But here we're talking about the mitzvot that we do are extensions of unique. Each one has his unique contribution, expression, but as a limb in this collective whole. And like I said, the value of the individual is not diminished. Oh, the whole is the main thing. The collective is the main thing. The individuals are less significant. No, the individuals get their full, grand, infinite significance by virtue of the fact that they're a continuation of that infinite source. You're part of something much greater. You're part of something big. This eternal nation of Israel, which is also the Bikurim, like we bring on Shavuot. The Bikurim, the person comes, in Kitisa, not Kitisa, Parshat Kitavo, right, in Dvarim 26, what you're supposed to say when you bring your first fruits. You bring your fruits, you remind your history from Yaakov and Arameh, and we were in Egypt, we were suffering, and we overcame, and we came out of Egypt, we got the Torah, and here's my fruit. In other words, you connect your fruit, you can look at the fruit as, I don't know, it's worth 5 shekels, 10 shekels, no. Here you see your fruit as an extension, a continuation, as of thousands of years of history. The Jewish history is now culminated, is brought to this point, that your great-grandfather was dreaming at the time that the Jewish people will be in the land of Israel and have their fruits. And here you are, your fruit is a continuation, is an extension, is a final product, so to speak, of that long history. You're part of something much bigger. You're not individual. Everything is judged by the individual level, how good you are, how much your fruits are. Here you're an extension, you're a limb of something super, of the divine name of God, of the name of the Jewish people in Israel, and of the Jewish people, the nation of God that was chosen to brings this goodness to the world. Source number 2. I mean, Hebrew is probably hard for you to read. It's also the script and all the Rashi script, and also it's not so clear. This is from the Al-Sheikh HaKadosh. He's known as his commentary of the Al-Sheikh. He's living in Tzfat at the time of the Arizal and the Beit Yosef, a few hundred years ago, 500 years ago. He says, we all have one Father, and one God created us all. We're Goy Echad Ba'aretz. We're one nation in the land of Israel. Each one of us is an extension, is a branch of this lofty level of, again, in these words of, like I said to you before, this holiness from above. And I can't read, it's hard to read mine also. It's so worn out. they are like, we're all branches of the wings of the Shekhinah, so to speak. All the souls of Israel are one, are considered like one. Like I said, it's one body. It's one soul. Not everyone has an individual. There's the collective soul, we call it the Neshama, the Shekhinah, Knesset Yisrael, the rabbis call it, the Knesset Yisrael. It's all considered one. That's why it says, even though there were 70 souls that went down to Egypt, it says, it calls them Shivim Nefesh, one Nefesh, 70 soul. As opposed to Esav, they were 6. I have the Midrash. They were 6, whatever, but it calls them souls. Like it's 6 individuals. But by the Jewish people, it's not individuals. It's 70, it's a lot of Jews, but it's one soul. The separation is only on the body level, the physical level, and not in the soul level. We have one life force. Like again, the limbs, the parallel of the metaphor of the body. It's one unit. You don't say there's 2 legs and 2 arms. What is a human being? He's 2 legs, 2 arms. You measure how much is the arm worth, how much skin, how much blood. I don't know. You can buy the supermarket, how much the different components, how much is the arm worth, the other leg, the left, and put the tell. He's worth like 300 shekel, 500 shekel. I think someone made the accounting as a metaphor. So, but he did the accounting how much the material is worth for each of the body. I mean, but the human being is he's not just a body. He's one entity, one soul, one life force revealed in the different limbs. But they're distinct. You see them all different, so to speak. But they're really parts of one. So in the physical, on that level, that metaphor, we see that it's one. Obviously, we know that it's one person. We don't think of him as 2 arms and 2 legs, whatever, and a head. On the national level, it's more difficult to see. Each one of you sitting in a different chair, we're all separate. God forbid, your pain isn't, I don't feel your pain. I don't think, we're all separate individuals. We have our own lives. So there we think the illusion is, the optical illusion, the senses that pick up the very external form only, we think that we're all separate. That's what I have a Rabbi Tursky, an article from years ago. Klal Yisrael is one huge neshama. And we are as distinct as individuals. That's what he says here, the Al-Shech HaKadosh, but here it's in English quicker. We are distinct as individuals only by virtue of this huge neshama being housed in different physical bodies. We thus have 2 entities that are opposite in their effects. As neshamot, we are one. Whereas in physical bodies, we are separate and distinct. And now here's the litmus test, where you're at. To the extent that we emphasize the neshama, if you're on the spiritual level, your vision, your perception, your connection is a life of the more spiritual, then you feel that oneness. You connect, you can love every Jew, etc. That's why I said it takes work to get to that level. But to the extent that we cater to and indulge in a physical body, we are separate. And that's what causes divisiveness and etc., etc. In other words, it depends where you're at. And that's why I said at the beginning, we read that it takes work and effort to get to this oneness. Because we see the senses pick up the first thing that when we're born and we're raised as children. The senses are dominant. The intellectual, the power of abstraction to see the inner one, the transcending, that which transcends the fractured physicality, that's more difficult to see. That takes training. You don't see that on the surface. And that's also the Shem Bishmor, the Rabbi Misokachov writes also in Shavuot, how on the physical level you all see that, the senses perceive that. But to get to the level of the oneness, that's the test. That's where to see where you're at if you're on that spiritual level. Because ultimately on the spiritual level, we're really one. It's not a philosophy here. It's not an interesting idea of morality, of to think of others, to love others, to care about others. As we'll see soon about what we said here. What is the malacha in Torah? To work for, to love another as yourself. So it sounds like a nice moral, spiritual teaching, to love others as yourself. But here it's an objective reality, it's a structural reality. You are not alone. You are part of a bigger body. You see yourself as alone. The hand thinks, I'm alone, I'm independent, me and only me, I'm worried about me. So you think, you should also worry about someone else. Okay, so I'll also worry about the left hand. It's not just literally, but his good is your good. His success is your success. Not like competition, capitalism, whatever. His success is your demise. You have to make sure the other company gets less and you make more profit. Here, his good is your good. You're one. You're really one. So look into our source number 4. I just sort of did these quickly to the tape. I didn't even finish this one yet. But maybe I will just go on to the Al-Shif, the first number, source number 2. He says the separation is only on the physical, external level. And we're like a tree that was all the different branches. It's like a tree in the ground. But what do you see? Let's say it's sunken into the ground, let's say. All you see on the surface is separate branches. Each one is separate. But underneath, there's a unifying force. There's the trunk or whatever, the roots that are underneath, that are one. But that takes a vision to perceive and to recognize that inner underlying unity. But that's the reality. It's not some fiction that, again, it's a nice teaching, a nice idea. The branches depend on their connection to the roots, and they're nothing other than the extension of that root. And they bring fruits, and they're unique, and they have a great contribution. The rabbis give an example. I think I have it in English. In Midrash Rabbah, in Vayikra. Oh, right, there's the Midrash. I think you have it in English here in the black books there. The Vayikra Rabbah, chapter 4. No, not those black books. In the Vayikra, in the back there, you can. Israel are like scattered sheep, it says Yirmiyahu. Why are Israel likened to a sheep? Just as a sheep, when one is hurt, one is hit on the head, the other in one part of the body, then all of its body parts feel it. So too with Israel. One of them sins, everyone feels it. It's likened to a person, a ship. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? From Rashbi. He gave a parable. People on a ship. I'll put it in my words. It's pretty much what it says here exactly. But people get a ship. Everyone, you get on a boat ride. If one gets there, you're in room number 352 or whatever. And all of a sudden, the people hear someone drilling. Someone's drilling in his room. He wants to see the fish, maybe underneath. Like he wants to drill in his room and see the fish underneath. They start yelling at him, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm drilling." He says, What are you drilling? How can you drill? What do you mean? It's my room. I got room number 252. This is you have your room. You do what you want. Live and let live, whatever. No, I'm drilling in my room. What does it bother you? The rabbi say, "Machpat lacha." In the words of the thing, what are you doing? He replied, "What do you care? Isn't it underneath my area that I'm drilling?" They said to him, "But if the water rises up and floods us all, we're all in one ship. It's not like you're doing your own thing and you're private. You're not a private thing. You're part of one ship or one body. We're one entity." Then he brings down what I said before, how Esau took his wives, his daughters, and all the souls of his household. There were only 6, and it calls them the souls. For Yaakov, there were 70 souls, and it's written in the Torah in the singular. And all of the people, the nefesh of Yaakov's issue. In other words, this reality of the oneness of Israel, that's the structural reality. So it sounds like you might have thought that loving the neighbor as yourself is a nice moral teaching. Look in source number 4. Menachem Mendel Chernobyl, also a student of the Baal Shem Tov, the Hasidic movement, in his commentary, Ma'ora V'Einayim. V'Hatarecha Kamocha. What does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself?
Sometimes it means that if you love your neighbor as yourself, it's like it's the whole Torah, no?
Right. That's what Rabbi Akiva said. That's the whole Torah. That's what you said at the first source. It's Klal Gadol. That's a rule for all of the Torah. That's the summary of all the Torah. But what does it mean? Hatarecha Kamocha, he says, means that even though a person knows in himself that he has some bad traits, but in spite of that, he doesn't hate himself. We know, each one of us knows we have some faults and failures. But you don't hate yourself. You overlook the bad, and you also want others to see the good in you. Just like you judge yourself, and you see the good in you, and you're happy, and you also want others to see the good and not to look at the bad. So just like you see the good in yourself and don't hate yourself for the bad, so too your neighbor, even though you see bad in him, you shouldn't hate him, because he also has a divine aspect. He has a positive inner essence, the divine, also good traits. So even if you see bad b'chavero in your friend, you should hate the bad and love the good, the holy part, the inner part, the essence. Also in the Tanya, chapter 32, it's a famous chapter in the book of the Tanya by the Chabad. Over here you have in English, chapter 32, look also the same thing of the inner essence of oneness, and you should, even if you're allowed to hate certain part, but to hate the bad, but not the love, the inner good, the absolute, the true part of the person. Not his moments, like a child does something bad and you hate him. No, it's a momentary thing. That's not the real him. He's an evil child. No, he's a good person. He just made a fault here, fell here, made a mistake here. But that's not him. Don't define him by his certain negative actions, which is the worst thing you can do, because then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say you're a lousy, rotten child. He becomes a lousy person. They categorize me as a thief, as an evil person. So I'll live up to that. I'll be that. But no, you're not that. You're a holy, good person. You're righteous. You're pure. You're holy. You have the neshama of Am Yisrael. And you should live up to it, understanding. We know that, understand sometimes you fail and you fall, but that's not you. You is your true essence, not the external garb that is changes by momentarily, etc. So here, again, it's not some external moral teaching, but here but that's the reality. You are to love other person is to love yourself, as we see in source number 5, also by one of the famous students of the Baal Shem Tov, Rav Yaakov Yosef. He writes, Klal Yisrael Echadu. The Jewish people are, again, one essence, or one entity. He that hates the other person hates himself. It's not someone else. It's not you should be nice to him or love him, or if you hate him, you hate someone else. It's nothing to do with you. It's you. It's the bigger you. You're not one limb. You're a part of a body. Hating one part is hating yourself, because if someone hits you, God forbid, it's not your arm hurts. I'm in pain. It's not, right? It's not someone else. It's you. You're all one you, made up of different limbs, indeed. But don't let this external facade, this optical illusion, think that you live as a separate entity, which unfortunately, after 2,000 years in exile, that's what took place, that we got so used to being in the fractured, the physical. No, the neshama doesn't have the body through which to reveal itself as giving life to a one unified body of the Jewish people and of Israel. Like it says, Goy Echad Ba'aretz, like we said in Mincha and Shabbat. Your nation, one nation in the land. Here, the one nation can be revealed. Here, the neshama, that spiritual life force, the divine content is revealed through a living nation in the land. Outside the land, it's like you pull out the battery or whatever, and now you have all the branches separate and live in exile, whatever, all separate and scattered. Then each one feels that for 2,000 years, I'm alone, I'm separate. I can love other Jews, but it's me and my life and my private. I worship God separately, but that's why Galut is called the desecration of God's name. His name can't be revealed fully through individual service. It's the national, collective thing that unifies and expresses God's name. But here he says that if you hate someone else, you're hating yourself. In Emunah, the Achdut comes through Emunah, like Shlema. Again, this oneness, this perception of a oneness, of recognizing that inner oneness, requires a high level of Emunah. A full emunah, he says, because you have to study to understand that. Because if you go by the senses alone, what science is built on the senses, the information that the fingers we pull in, what the senses can, 5 senses pick up of the world, we extrapolate, we understand that, and the intellect works with that, like the Rav Saadia Gaon says. All of our understanding and wisdom and aspirations are built on what the senses pick up. But there's more than what the 5 senses pick up. Rav Kook writes, in the future there'll be thousands of senses.
But the body, if you are hurt, you will always look for a subject why you are hurt. It's a defense mechanism.
Nachon, but you feel it. It's you. It's not like my arm is in pain. You feel the pain. It's all of you. It's you. There's a person behind those different limbs. You have to go fix the arm, right? If the pain is in the arm, you fix certain parts. You're right. It's made up of individuals, but there's the person is not just the sum total of the individual. Right? The whole is more than the sum of the parts. The whole, the person, the neshama, the personality, is revealed through each part. There could be sick parts of the body that you have to treat each one separately. You go to the hand doctor, the heart and kidney, lung doctor, whatever. But what's in pain, what's suffering, what's the problem is the person. Or look at the final, maybe just one more example here on the bottom source, number 8, on this first sheet. There's 4 sheets, I don't know if we're going to get to them all. This is a famous, it's a good metaphor, it'd be good to know. For those that aren't, it's in the Talmud Yerushalmi in the Darim, chapter 9. On the law of lo tikom v'lo titor. You shouldn't take revenge or to bear a grudge. Someone does something to you, so you did to me, I'll get you back. Or a grudge is that I won't do what you did to me. You still bear the grudge inside. You don't do the actual revenge. But you remember what you did. I remember what you did to me. You did. Anyway, so how is it humanly possible, the Gemara says, to fulfill that? We're human beings. Someone hits you. You want to hit him back. You want to take revenge, or at least remember what he did. How can we be expected to fulfill this law that sounds to be unsuperhuman? So look at the example the Gemara gives, the bottom paragraph here. Hava mikatea kupad. He keeps a metaphor. A person was once cutting some meat. And the knife slipped, and he cut a little bit of his left hand. Right? Some of you ever hammer a nail?
Yeah.
Sometimes you
hammer your hand as well.
Some of you hammer your hand. So the right hand hammers the left hand. The knife was cutting with the right hand, cuts into the left hand. Will now the left hand rise up and take revenge or avenge the right hand to get him back, to hit him back?
No.
Why not?
Because you forgive yourself easily, like you don't have any subject.
That's all. It's just forgiving. It's more than that, no? If the left hand now cuts the right hand, what has he gained?
Just you. I mean, you.
It's the same you. Now you're in more pain. It's not like I get you back, I'll make up what you did to me. Now you're in more pain. You had enough. Now your right hand, left hand was bleeding. Now your right hand is also suffering. Look what the rabbi said, the commentary. So the rabbi said, he was cutting it. He just translates it to English and Hebrew and explains. The Ben Korban Haidad, one of the commentators on the Talmud Yerushalmi. He was cutting a piece of meat, and the knife went into his left hand. Will it dawn on him that he should avenge the right hand and cut into the left hand without cut back to the right hand? Why not? Because the Jewish people are one body. So too, he says, the Jewish people are one body. It doesn't make sense. In other words, it's impossible. Because if you avenge him, you're avenging yourself. You're avenging your own body. You're not hurting someone else. That you, to be moral, you don't hurt someone else. Don't take revenge. It's yourself, like we said before. He that hates others hates himself, because you're not you. In other words, you're you, but you is not what you thought as if 50, 80, 100 kilo of flesh. You're you. It's this collective entity. That's the real you. That's the true you. It's not a fiction. You're branches of a giant tree. So the problem is the senses don't pick up the underground roots. So you think we're just separate branches, like he said, or Tversky and others, Shem Shmuel, etc., all the Tzakachever, that we don't see that. So if you're stuck in the physical world, material, all you see is what the five senses pick up, then you're separate. And then at best, you can be moral, like I said, Emily Post, whatever, to be morally, not to hurt other people, not to take a bit. But here we're talking about the objective, the structural reality is such that you're really one. We'll see there's halakhic ramifications. We don't have time. There's halakhic ramifications for this. What they said, all the Jews are responsible for each other. That if you made kiddush, you can still make kiddush for someone else. And the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, the Rashba explains that as long as someone else hasn't fulfilled the mitzvah, you're still responsible. In other words, it's if part of you hasn't fulfilled it. Not like my right hand did the mitzvah, but my left, and then a left hand, the left hand didn't, or so to speak. In other words, it's not like do it for someone else. It's the big you hasn't fulfilled it. And so all the Jews have fulfilled it, done this properly, then there's a responsibility on each one. In other words, all of you aren't exempt yet from the mitzvah. Because you're one. Again, there's halakhic ramifications. It's not just a mystical, this is a reality. So I see
So what do you do when one part of your body is destroying the rest of the body?
Oh, so that's, again, it's not at the extent of, you got cancer. There's cancer, God forbid, that comes in certain parts. So there's things you have to do. That's where the metaphor ends, so to speak. You can't, when you have these metaphors in Chazal and Torah, a mashal, you don't take the metaphor to the end, like so to speak. It's every detail. The metaphor is to give a certain idea. The body example of the oneness of the unity. And then there's parts that are separate and they can attack each other. So again, you don't let people kill you in order to save, you have to, what the Rambam says, you have to cut off one part of the body to save the whole body. But in principle,
it also applies to the people. No? Sometimes you see people that fight through this fight.
Okay, but that's where I would say that you can't carry to the end this mashal, this metaphor.
No, not to kill them, but I mean.
No, but I'm saying even that you understand that ultimately every Jew has this neshama.
Yes.
Whether his actions are so bad and so anti, and you think that who wants him? I wanted to get to that. It says haporesh min hatzibur en lo chelek ha'maba. It says there's people. There's one of the pre-Haaretz of Menachem Mendel Vitebsk. He says, he that laughs about the secular, the evil, he calls them, the evil Jews, they take them away, separate them, we don't want part of them. He says, they are cutting themselves off from the nation, because tzibur is made up of the word in Hebrew, like tzadik bet resh, which is tzadikim, benonim, and reshaim, the righteous, the medium, and the evil. The tzibur is made up of all the different types. Again, you have in source number 12. I don't know if you have the sheets. There's 4 types of species in the lulav. 2 give fruits and 2 don't give fruits. So you think only take the one that give fruits? Says no. The ones who don't give fruits need those, and each one needs each other, and only together you can't fulfill the mitzvah until you have all 4, or even more than that. The midrash underneath that, in Midrash Rabbah, in Vayikra Rabbah, in Emor. Again, all the Jews are likened to the 4 species. There's an etrog that has a good taste and a good smell. There are those that have Torah and good mitzvot, good characteristics and good traits and good actions. Again, it goes through all the different four. They have a good taste and taste and no smell. Until you get to the Arava that has no taste and no smell, no Torah, no good deeds. No, in other words, no worth, no, how do you say, so no redeeming qualities. Who needs him? So the rabbis say, Uma Kadosh Baruch Hu Selehem. So what do we need them for? Take all the three. La'abdam, to get rid of them. Who wants them? To get rid of them. They're not with us. Shar, that's impossible. Because we need all four. All four. Again, you have to make it healthy and you have to not leave it the way they are is good. But you need all of them. If you cut them off, then you're sick, God forbid. So the rabbis say here, get rid of the Arava, get rid of the bad guys, so to speak. Shar, that's impossible. Ella, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you should be all united together and they atone each one for the other. Together, the dafka, the unity, the harmony between them causes them and brings them back. They're linking themselves up or connecting them to the roots, brings them back to health. They take this sick branch, the actions are not good, but the more he's reconnected to the roots and know how to connect him to the roots, then the more the life of the tree flows through them and it becomes unified. The Gemara likens it to the chelbana. He says a fast without the evil people is not a fast. The sinners. The Gemara in verse number 9. From Kritut, page 6. It says just quickly, can I answer you? Again, I want to do all these sources. We have 4 sheets here. Rav Shimon Chasida said, a fast that doesn't have the sinners of Israel is not a fast. Just like the chelbana, right? We have I'll try to end with this, the 11 species of the Ktoret, right? The chelbana, I think it's called the frankincense, is a lousy, evil, rotten smell. So you'd think, take the 10. Who wants this guy? Who needs him? It just ruins it for everyone. Lowers the average of the class. So get rid of him and the average will go, get rid of the bad student. No, it says you have to have him, without which, right, it's you have to have all 11. So I brought you down, I have the sources, the Meshech Chochmah, the same rabbi, the Rabbi Divinsky, and the Haftarah Dvarim, he adds here that when each one is taken individually, then there's positive values and there's negative there's levels of different types of Jews. Tzaddikim, Beinonim, Rashaim, there's evil people that do bad things, etc. But if taken alone, when they're separate, but when they're united together, then not only did this chelbana not detract, like lower the average, bring about a bad smell, and not only that it's his bad smell is counteracted, or how to say, overcome by the good of the others, but the chelbana brings out the good, makes the other good ones even smell better. This paradox, this bad smelling thing, taken alone, it has a bad, evil odor. When he's joined with the other 10, then not only that he's, like I said, you have to include him, what can we do? He's in the class. Or not only that he's canceled out, but it says he adds more, he brings out good from the others, like it's a catalyst that wakes up and stimulates the good in the others to make them even better. And so too the Jewish people, they're built this way, that each one has his goal. Again, it doesn't mean you have to have, in other words, there are different functions in the body. There are parts of the body that are more, let's say, less clean, less, we have the intellect, the brain, the hand. But there's parts of the body that we function of, we dispose of the waste products, etc., not so clean and not so whatever. But what do we say, the blessing, we come out of the bathroom? That if one is closed or one is open, whatever, then you can't live for a minute. There's certain parts of the body, the lower parts, let's call it, the physical part that deal with the nation of Israel, there's parts that are more a tendency towards, distancing from the holiness. There are more parts that deal with the physical world and the act, and they have a more tendency, unfortunately, to sometimes stray. But we can't do without them. We need them all. So they're not endangering the nation. The present thing is not a good situation, but we have to keep them all together. And then, by being together, that actually will ultimately, not overnight, but ultimately the completion of all of them together will be this unified unit that will enable to work properly and function with all the physical, spiritual down to the physical, not to abandon the physical, which is more, like I said, tendency and problematic. Christianity, to get rid of the physical, just to be spiritual, to be the monks and vows of celibacy, not to have sex. And that's we don't want to deal with the practical. No, our whole goal, the divine goal, is to encompass all, to lift all, to raise all, elevate all, to have the body, to have the things that are unfortunately they're more tendency and likely to stray, but to keep them and to have them in line, and ultimately they bring about the bigger bracha that enables the blessing to come out through all of this kingdom of priests and holy nation. Like I said, today we were given that goal and recognized, revealed to us the goal of the nation, to be this kingdom of priests and holy nation that will ultimately uplift all of creation, all of mankind. And this requires more study. Like Rabbi Kiva said, this is the Haftarah Kamocha, now that's the Torah. Now you have to learn a lot to get to that, to live that. This was just scratching the surface. I don't want to keep it from Mincha. Chag Sameach, and all the best.